What's up and welcome to a very special episode of the Upland Show. Today, I am happy to have DrKnowby with us. I met DrKnowby for the first time actually when I went with Upland when the city of Dallas and Arlington were released, and we actually met there at the state fair. Upland put up a booth there where they were kind of introducing people to the metaverse who were just walking around at the fair. So that was really cool to be involved with that experience, and also have the chance to meet DrKnowby and hear about some of the stuff they are working on with 1111 NFT project. And so I said, we got to get you on the podcast and tell people more about what's going on. So thanks for joining me, my man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am DrKnowby. My human name is Johnny Leftwich. I am a well. How much do you want me to get into right off the bat, or do you want to ask your questions?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, one question I have is how did you actually get the name DrKnowby?
Okay, so DrKnowby is it's an indirect reference to one of my favorite movies, Evil Dead 2. Although I think it applies to Evil Dead the original as well. And I actually I was just Googling the other day to see, is there any other like DrKnowby on the internet, and a Fortnite thing came up, and it was like an official ad for Fortnite saying like, defend the Nobby cabin. So
interesting.
So they're kind of bringing DrKnowby much, or not even DrKnowby. Technically, I don't know if he's a doctor, but he is a character because this Fortnite thing was saying defend the Nobby cabin. So the Nobby cabin is like the original cabin in the woods from Evil Dead, where they go out to this cabin. It's this young couple, and they find this the Book of the Dead in the basement, and the guy Ash, Bruce Campbell, plays the tape recorder, this big reel to reel, and you hear this guy reciting this stuff from this Book of the Dead. And before he does that, he says, "This is Professor Raymond Nobby." Professor Raymond Nobby, yeah. So it's never said that he's a doctor, but a lot of professors hold PhDs. So
yeah,
DrKnowby. So that's the inspiration for the name.
Yeah. I like it. There must be a developer over there at Fortnite who's also a fan, who kind of threw that in there.
Yeah, they have some deal with well, it's probably not Rosebud at this point, but whatever studio is owns the rights to Evil Dead.
Yeah. So yeah, let's hear more about your background. What got you interested into kind of the Web3 metaverse space originally?
So I guess it was 2021, like a year and a half ago at this point, that I got I was just sitting at home and I got an ad on Brave, I think, for Upland. And it was like this, primary colors with a llama. Like it looked like it was made for, elementary school students, but it said like play, earn, connect, and like buy virtual property. And I was like, all right, this is weird. What is this? And so I looked into it. And of course, anybody watching this, the Upland Show, probably knows what Upland is.
Yeah.
So I got into Upland, and I'm also very into podcasts, and so I just went on my podcast app and searched Upland. I can't remember if it was just Upland or what I searched exactly, but anyway, the Opex podcast came up, and so I started listening to them, and they said that they were looking for an editor, and I had just started a small podcast editing company, or production company rather. And so I contacted them, and we ended up not coming to a deal on me doing that work, but we stayed in touch. And so that's how I kind of met ThankMeLater and Too Stupid to Win and got into this space. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. And like what about Upland kind of kept you coming back? Like, I know a lot of people have very different experiences. Did you go in, did you invest pretty heavily, or did you just kind of mess around with it? How did it go?
I I think the first thing I did was I bought a $100 property in Fresno and quickly realized it was not worth $100. And then I kept it up. I think I put it up for like $200. And of course nobody was buying that. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll just take I'll try to break even. So I put it back up for 100. Still nobody was buying that because they all knew what I didn't know. And then I was like, all right, I'll do it like 80 or whatever. So I got like my $80 back. And then I started trying to invest more intelligently. And I was able to, buy and flip and buy and flip. And, but the whole concept really intrigued me that, you could essentially do what people do with real estate in terms of, buying and flipping or, holding and getting the revenue and whatever, but it's all on your computer. And well, it's not even on your computer, but you're at your computer. That's where you do all the work. And you don't have to deal with like tenants or any of that kind of stuff or whatever.
Real estate agents,
all of that stuff. Yeah. It's like none of that stuff, but all of the benefit, and you could potentially make as much money if you do it right.
Yeah.
So that concept was just really interesting to me. And I know that people have their gripes about it. Like, oh, it's not free to play because you have to invest. It's like, no, there are people out there who've done it, but anyway, yeah, I just found it really interesting and like a really good opportunity to potentially make a lot of money just playing this game.
Wow. Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
So obviously we got talking when we met there in Dallas, and I got to learn more about this 1111 project that you're working on, and kind of, so I'd like you to kind of introduce some of that and maybe some of your background that kind of led you to wanting to create this whole project in the first place.
Yeah. So my background is in art. I'm still, I have at least a surface level understanding of the whole NFT, Web3, all that stuff. I get it, but I'm not like an expert by any means. So I'm working with people who understand that to make this happen. But my background is in art. I'm a special makeup effects artist. And I went to Tom Savini's special makeup effects school in 2008, 2009, and then again in 2012, 2013. And, worked at Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood doing makeup there. I've worked with Steve Johnson, who did Ghostbusters and
wow.
Yeah, The Abyss and all that stuff. I lived in LA for several years, and so, I'm really that's kind of what I'm passionate about. I really like that stuff. I grew up watching horror movies and all kinds of movies from the 80s, 90s, 70s, all the way back to the 30s. My dad was a huge film buff, and so like I know the original Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein and everything. It's like just kind of part of the structure of my brain at this point. But yeah, so this stuff is like the stuff that I'm passionate about. And so the timing, I was born in 87, and I wanted to, growing up in the 90s, but before I was really thinking about like, oh, what could I do for a job, because I'm like 10 or whatever. But I'm watching these movies and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. And immediately, I'm asking like, how do they do that stuff? And because, when you're a kid, you see it and you're like, oh, it's real. My dad explained to me, no, it's not real. There's people who do this. So I was like, really? How does that work? And so he explained the stuff to me. And at that time, like at that exact moment in time, really, there were just a few people who could do it. One of whom was Steve Johnson, the guy that I ended up working with. Just a few people who could do it. And it was in high demand. So like the movie studios were like, find anyone that can do this and give them millions of dollars and let them do whatever they want. So that sounded pretty good to me.
Yeah.
But by the time I turned like, 20 and started actually going into this, it turned out I was not the only one with that idea. So there was a lot of competition and, you know, CG and everything. Like, it was a different world. And so I kind of, you know, was trying to like grind out, you know, my niche there. But it's very, very competitive. And the job that I wanted, which I didn't even realize was something that you had to like work to the top for, was on-set makeup artist. You know, I wanted to be the guy who went on set, did the thing, you know, cleaned it up and went home.
Yeah.
So, but to get to that point, you have to start sweeping floors, and you have to be able to make molds and run silicone and paint props and do all the fabrication, and like all you have to know how to do every single thing, and you have to do it really well. And then you have to get into the union to get onto actual movie sets. So like,
Wow.
the people who are doing that stuff have just dedicated their lives to it, which I totally respect. But I want to do other things with my life, you know? So I kind of came to a point where I was like, all right, I could do this, but it's going to require every bit of my energy. And so I stepped away. So, you know, I was like, well, I'll figure something else out. I'll do something else. So it was during that time that I discovered Upland and started kind of getting into this Web3 space. And actually had the idea for 1111 again about a year and a half ago when I was talking to Too Stupid to Win and ThankMeLater. I actually brought this idea to them, and this is long before Opex World. I was like, because Upland had just started talking about meta ventures.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, oh, maybe this is something we could do as a meta venture. It turns out this is far more complex than a meta venture could accommodate. But once ThankMeLater started talking about Upex World, we kind of came back to the idea because, you know, it sounded like what he was talking about was kind of the perfect thing for 1111. And I think it is, you know, it's about to launch, so we'll see. But all indicators are that this is exactly where it needs to be for it to work.
Wow. So that's really cool. So you have this background in art, specifically special effects, makeup, artistry, which is really interesting in and of itself. What a kind of niche thing. So what, like, how did that lead to wanting to create 1111? Maybe let's talk more specifically. What is 1111 at like elevator pitch, like high level, if you were explaining it to someone on the street about how it actually works?
Well, it kind of depends on who I'm talking to, because there's an appeal for several different kinds of people. For an artist, I would say, so 1111 is an art gallery where you can, I mean, literally the tagline, exhibit, earn, elevate your art. You know, you can get your art shown in this gallery, which is going to be a main experience in the video game. And then people will buy that art, so you'll get paid for that. And then people who play the game can get that art put on, for example, a t-shirt or, you know, whatever other in-game item form factors there are going to be. Your art can be displayed on there, and you make money every time that happens.
Cool.
So that's the elevator pitch for them. The elevator pitch for an investor, an art investor, would be, there's an art gallery, kind of the same starting point. You know, you can buy this art. And if you own an original of this art, for the pyramid at least, the array functions a little differently. But for the pyramid, if you buy this NFT, this one of one, it essentially entitles you to the majority of the revenue that is generated every time someone uses that piece to create a piece of art in the game or a form factor in the game. So usually those people are like, they're interested in the money part. They like, and the art part too, usually. But they don't really care about the video game or whatever. And then, so the other type of person would be the person who does care about the video game. You know, you've got the person who cares about making and selling the art, the person who cares about making money off the art, which is also the artist, but really the investor makes the majority secondarily. And then the player of the game, you know, the player of the game gets to just go in and check out like the, I think we're calling it the originator. it's essentially the gift shop, where you can see like, here's all the stuff that's available to buy in game. Here's all the art you can get on these things. And then you get to just kind of browse the catalog and be like, oh yeah, I want that. So it doesn't have to be like, it's a monthly release, get it now or don't. It is like that for the pieces, the people who are buying the original pieces. But once those are sold, then you can get it in the originator forever. So any person who comes into the game can look through all the stuff, and we'll have a way to sort that out once it becomes, enormous, like we're expecting it to.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned a few kind of technical aspects, or at least words that you use that I think would be good for everyone to understand. You mentioned the pyramid and the array. Is that something that's unique to 1111 that you came up with, or are you pulling that from something else? But please kind of explain how that works.
Sure. So the whole concept of 1111 is definitely not directly inspired by, but I kind of wouldn't be able to say that it's not inspired by my experience on the show Face Off. So I was on a makeup effects competition reality show on Sci-Fi called Face Off on season 10, which I like to call the lost season.
This is a reality TV show that you were on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. So it was kind of cool. It was cool in certain ways. It was kind of equal parts awesome and terrible because of all the, behind the scenes, and like I had issues with the production and all that stuff. But like, so if you watch it, I understand that there was stuff going on behind the scenes that are, not readily apparent, that are influencing my mood.
Yeah, I imagine that happens a lot with a lot of these different reality TV shows.
Yeah, I mean, it's quote unquote reality. It's they're definitely manipulating stuff behind the scenes, and it's like they have their even down to who's going to win. There's a lot of conjecture about that among the artists. And one thing that I think I'm pretty good at, which is why I think I would be good to do the 1111 thing and as DrKnowby curate this experience, I have a pretty good idea of what's good and what's not, even if it's my own stuff. I can look at something and be like, nah, didn't miss the mark on that one. or like, hey, I think this piece is pretty good. So with the casting of Face Off, my season, every other season, there's a formula. Like they want a certain spread of characters. I was one of them. We all were. And they want a certain spread of talent levels. They don't want just the 12 or 13 best artists that they can find. They want it
to be an entertaining TV show at the same time, and they want there to be drama and stuff like that. Yeah.
They want people in the first episode, they want the viewers to be like, oh, he's going home. Or like, man, this guy might win,
Yeah.
But instead of having like a bunch of really good art and be like, oh man, I don't know, like, and then people would be mad when somebody that they really like goes home or whatever. They're trying to make a TV show. Yeah. They're not trying to like showcase great art. That does end up happening, but it's kind of like a secondary effect.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, they cast a few really good people, a few not good people, and a few in the middle people. And I think I was on close to the higher end of the in the middle people. But and that's kind of where I ended up. Spoiler alert. But yeah, so this show, at the beginning there's the full cast. And then every episode, well, not every episode, but usually somebody gets eliminated. Sometimes they do like, no, everybody's safe, or like 2 people are getting eliminated today, surprise, or whatever.
Yeah, it's similar to a lot of like cooking shows that most people have probably watched. Yeah,
exactly. And actually, most of those shows are using the Face Off formula. Like Face Off was one of the first shows to do this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and they got really a lot of acclaim for it. They won some awards. And then of course, whenever that happens, everybody starts going like, well, what are they doing?
Yep.
So
makes sense.
I was in school in 2008 when this first before it was a concept. I think reality TV came around kind of in like 2007, except for like Real World, Road Rules. There were some Cops, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they came around to, they had this idea like, oh, we want to make this show. Where are we going to get these artists? They probably considered going to like makeup effect shops in Hollywood, but I'm sure that those people were happy working on movies and not wasting their time with reality TV. So they went to makeup effect schools, and I was at one of them, and they talked to me for season 1, before it was even known outside of anybody other than us. And they liked me, and they were like, okay, cool. Well, we're gonna fly you out to LA, have you audition there. So basically they dwindled it down, and I made like right before the last cut, and they were like, and then I just, they like ghosted me essentially. I was like, okay, well, I guess I didn't make the cut there. But so I contacted them again, and they were like, but we really like you, and we want you to, apply again. You should audition again, because we think, we'll get you on the show. So I was like, okay, cool. So I auditioned again, I think for season 3. No, didn't get on, but they were like, well, you should audition again. We like you. We want to get you on the show. So I was like, okay. So I auditioned for season 7, didn't get on. And then finally I was like, at this point, by season 10, when I got on, I knew people who had been on the show. There was like this revolving ball of like artists that I knew from school who got on the show, who auditioned for the show but didn't, who came back from the show, and we talked about what was the experience like. And this whole time I'm talking with the producers and everything. So like, I know the system and the people and everything at this point now. So finally, when I got on season 10, it was more like, okay, finally, as opposed to, yay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
wow, I made it.
Yeah, it was like, okay, cool. I only had to do 8 makeups and spend all of this money and time and auditioning. Like, so, I kind of went into it, a little more jaded than if I'd gotten on season 1, and then also by that time they had, like I said, they'd won these awards, and season 9 was a huge season, and season 11 was going to be a huge season. And so I feel like there was just this kind of like dip for us where they were like, let's just get it done, and less excitement from them, less excitement from us. It was, that's why, if you watch it, I'm a little unenthused at times. But all that to say, this show was an experience where you have a bunch of artists starting out at the beginning, and then at the end you have one winner. And so with 1111, it's essentially the same idea, except you don't have to commit your life and give me your phone and not talk to anyone and live in my house. You can just kind of do your art and submit it, and then your art gets put up against other art, and then the community decides, how that progresses. So the array is essentially all of the art that comes in, that passes just kind of my quality control check. So like, if something comes in and I look at it and I'm like, I can't put this on Atomic Hub, or this won't go in Opex World, even if it's great, even if if I love it, it has to conform to community standards, so as long as you're in that box, then it comes to quality. Is it something that I think is really cool that I want in 1111? If so, great. And then I essentially throw it on the pile, which is the array. Okay. And then the community comes in and selects every month. The process runs from the 11th to the 11th. The community selects which 11 pieces they want from the array, the pile, which can be up to 1,111 pieces. They decide the top 11 that are going into the pyramid. The pyramid is where the real competition between one-of-one NFTs begins.
Okay. So every month there's this competition. Does the community vote on it? Is there judges? How does that work?
So, well, at this very moment, we are still pre-launch as of right now. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but we're looking to launch on November 11th, which is coming up 2 days from now. So right now, we're just going to start with 11 artists to begin with. But in the future, when we have, hopefully when we've won a bunch of awards and people are clamoring to get into our thing, there's going to be, lots of people in the array. And then you vote. So Xlanders, players of Upex World, will be the ones voting. And you will get 11 standard votes, which you have to distribute among 11 different artists. But if you are part of the VIX program, which is like the premium subscription plan for Upex World, then you get extra votes, 11 extra votes. So you have your 11 standard votes, your 11 extra votes. Standard votes have to be dispersed among different artists. You can do whatever you want with the 11 extra votes. So you can pile them all up on one artist if you want, or you can say like, I'm going to give this artist 3, this artist 2, this artist 5, whatever.
Cool.
So anybody who's playing Upex World is entitled to vote in the array, and whoever has the most votes in the array are the ones that go into the pyramid. And then from there in the pyramid, in the array, those pieces are available to mint infinitely as long as they're in the array. And they stay in the array until either they go 11 rounds and they don't move into the pyramid, then they drop off. Or if it reaches capacity at 1,111 pieces, then I will start making decisions about which pieces stay and which pieces go. Or if they move into the pyramid, then those 11 artists in the bottom tier of the pyramid, all of their work from the array is removed.
Okay.
So an artist can only...
So people are voting on that. People are putting these votes on these 1,111, right?
Yes, potentially 1,111.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay. And then once they move into the pyramid, so an artist can only have one piece in the 1111 system at any given time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so they'll submit their array piece, and then if they get voted, actually, when you submit your array piece, you also submit your bottom level pyramid piece, so that if you go into the array, we have your pyramid piece. Boom, you're in. And then once you're in the bottom level of the pyramid, on the 11th of the month, that's when that happens. Then you have to have your next pyramid piece in by the 1st of the following month, so that you can continue up the pyramid. And then once that round ends, the top 10 by price. So this time we're not voting. I mean, you are voting kind of, but they're all up for auction. So the ones in the array are just kind of like a vending machine. It's a set price. It's a low price. Get as many as you want, but that doesn't affect which ones go on. It's the vote. But in the pyramid, you have the 11 at the bottom. They're all up for auction for a month. Those are one of ones, and those are the ones that entitle you to passive revenue from the replication of that art in the game if you get that piece. So people will be bidding on all these pieces, and then the 10 highest bids, or the ones that go for the highest, the 10 top ones, go on, and then the 11th one falls off. So when I say go on, it's not that piece going on, but it's that artist going on who is submitting another piece to the next level.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go from the artist perspective. So let's say I were to submit a piece of art. I just want to make sure I understand, because this is really cool. This is an interesting model, and it's fun. I'm a very competitive person, so I like the competitive aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I submit a piece of art to the array originally, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It gets approved. It goes through some type of approval process. If it's approved, there's up to 1,111 pieces of art in this bottom level array that people can start actually minting these pieces of art on the blockchain on Wax or Atomic Hub, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then 11 of these get selected to enter a monthly competition.
Yes.
Okay, and those ones that were in the array.
Sorry,
those
11 of those artists.
Yeah. Okay, 11 of those artists. Okay.
Yeah. The pieces that get voted up, it's not the piece, but the artist. And then the ones that the artists go on to the next level with a new piece.
Okay, so every time at each new layer, they submit a new piece of art.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So if they make it all the way up to the top of the pyramid, if they're number 1, then they are the only artist out of that round of the array. So like you can have, let's say the array fills up. We have that many applications, we have that many approvals, and you have 1,111 pieces in the array. Then the community votes for 11 pieces to go on. And let's say one of them is you. And so you end up in the bottom level of the pyramid, your next piece of art.
Yep.
Then the process goes again, you're still in. You're in the next level. Process goes again, you're still in, you're in the next level. If you make it up to the number 1 place, then that's a 1 of 1 that's up for auction by you that has no competition. And you're the only person out of those 1,111 artists at the bottom who made it all the way to the top and now has a 1 of 1 in slot 11 of the pyramid.
Okay. And so once an artist makes it to that top level, is that like a season per se? Like will that process repeat, or is all of that kind of a one-time thing that will happen?
You mean for that artist? Like, can they get in again?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, because so you mentioned at each level of okay, let's go back. So I submit a piece into the array. I'm one of the 11 artists that gets to that first level
of the pyramid.
Of the pyramid.
Yeah.
Now there will be, in a month, people auctioning on those 11 pieces of art that these artists submit for that bottom level. So it's going to take 11 months for the whole competition to end, right?
Yeah, actually, if you count the array, it would take a full year.
Okay.
So because the 11-11 cycle is from the 11th to the 11th of each month. It's a month long. And in that time, each level is going through its cycle.
Okay.
So, you have the array, the bottom level of the pyramid, the next level, the next level, the next level. And those are all, so like right now, we're starting only with the array. Like the pyramid has to essentially be built over the next year. Once it's built out, then it stays built out and this process continues. So yeah, every month you have each level going through its thing. The array, again, is just vending machine style.
Yep.
With the pyramid, essentially, if you visualize it, you have 11 pieces at the bottom, 10 pieces next, 9, 8, 7. Each one of those pieces is on auction from the 11th to the 11th. So like as soon as they appear, they're accepting bids.
Okay.
And you can put in your bid. And yeah, then it ends on the 11th of the following month. And yeah, that's how the cycle goes.
Okay, that makes sense. So then one more question I have, will there be like multiple pyramids potentially running at a time, or is there always going to be only one? So like only 11 artists on an annual cycle will have entered?
Well, so there's only one pyramid, but with the whole system, you have the 11 new ones every month, 11 new ones, 11 new ones, 11 new ones.
It's constantly moving. So
yeah, so in total, the pyramid, you have 66 pieces, 66 unique 1 of 1 pieces by 66 different artists.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah,
so it's constantly flowing. Okay.
Yeah. So the pyramid is really the gallery. So like in Opex World, you will see this building. That's the 1111 building. You go in at the bottom level, you'll see 11 pieces. You move up a floor, you see 10 pieces. You move up a floor, you see 9, and so on and so on and so on, until the top floor where there's this one piece that everyone's looking at.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the array it's actually in the basement of the 1111 building. And that's more akin to like a record store, like you would go in and just like
lot of art to look through.
Yeah, like you're flipping through the crates and there's like posters on the walls, whatever. So like that's the array. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's the first time I understood like the full concept of it. So
yeah, it's complex. I mean, to me, it's simple because I've got it. Like this concept, I don't know where it came from. I just came up with it, and it was it was a little bit different, but it was pretty much fully fleshed out when I brought it to ThankMeLater and Too Stupid to Win a year and a half ago without Opex World to facilitate it. So now that there's Opex World, it's like, okay, cool. We can actually really start implementing this and making it a thing now.
For sure. Yeah, and I definitely think once people can see it from like a visual aspect and see the layers and see, I think it actually becomes quite simple to understand once you experience it. Like talking about it theoretically takes a second, but actually I can imagine going through these levels and seeing it and actually going in that building in this Opex World experience that's being created, from the basement to level 1 all the way up to level 11. That's really cool. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I'll be super excited when it gets to the point where it's I keep saying physical. It's digital. We're not like, we don't have land in the United States.
I say that same thing when I'm talking about Upland. Like, you have to go to a physical place to do it, but there needs to be a word for that now that the metaverse exists, like a digitally physical place. There needs to be a word for that. You know what I mean?
You have to go to a metaphysical place where there's this building. Like, I think, I'm excited not just to launch the project, but to have that metaphysical space where you can go and, walk inside and look around and have like, because there are galleries in other metaverses, but not like this. This is like its own, like it's a gallery, but there's a concept built around it and inside it and everything. So being able to actually go in it and literally visualize it will help a lot, for people to understand. Because right now, I was thinking, oh yeah, ThankMeLater, you just do the technical stuff and I will get all these artists on board. And because I know a lot of artists, like, it would be really easy for me to get a ton of artists on board.
Yeah.
If they understood it and were interested, So I overestimated the interest that my friends would have in this, because to me, like I said, I have it in my head. I get it. But it's hard to explain it without a long podcast where you're just watching and understanding and going along for the ride, like if somebody is, and it's frustrating for me because, I know that this is really, really cool. It's a cool concept and it's a cool opportunity to earn, like I know as an artist, it sucks getting paid. Like it's hard, starving artists, So this is an opportunity, like, and again, as an artist, I want to, again, exhibit, earn, elevate your art. I want to provide a place where people can show their art. But again, I know exposure doesn't pay the bills. That's great if people are seeing it, but the reason you want people to see it is because you want people who will pay you to see it. So, but the earning opportunity is there where you submit your art. And then hopefully the people who are seeing their earning opportunity for owning one of these one-of-ones are going to be placing high bids against each other, because, they see it like, okay, I have this piece of art. Not only do I own it and that's cool, but it entitles me to 89% of 1111's take of the revenue every time that piece is printed on an in-game item. So if we have buyers who are seeing the earning opportunity and we have artists who are seeing the earning opportunity, then I'm going to be flooded with art and I can really choose the best of the best stuff to get in here. Because as an artist, getting to the #1 place is not only cool because, hey, I made it and I can brag about it, and that's awesome.
There's a pride thing behind it for sure.
Yeah, number one, all day. But also, that means that you have 11 pyramid pieces out there generating money for you. So, there's a built-in earning opportunity where it's not just a cash prize. It's not just, a car or whatever. It's like, this is passive revenue that you'll be able to collect. And the more pieces you have out there that are doing that, the more you'll be able to earn.
Yeah, this is, my mind's open up to all sorts of ideas. Few questions that come to mind. Will artists at some point, if they, like, let's say, made it into the pyramid, they made it to like level 5 and then they were eliminated, would they have opportunities to re-enter at a future point and be reselected?
Yeah, so you can re-enter as soon as you have no more art in the 1111 system. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So, okay, in theory, they could get right back on like the next selection after being eliminated. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I keep thinking back to this, like how it compares to like these reality shows, and you could even do like, I'm even thinking like, man, there could be like an all-star season where, 2 years down the road, like people who had all won are pitted against each other for 1 month or something like that.
Yeah.
Going up. That would be really cool.
There's definitely, a lot of potential for stuff down the road once this system gets going and we start figuring out like how it really works. And I mean, we know how it works conceptually, but in practice, once we see all those things play out and we can see what people like, maybe what people don't like, what we can figure out to improve or add to the system to make it better and more interesting for everybody. Yeah, there's a lot of potential.
Definitely. Wow, that's that. I'm glad now that I kind of understand it. It's really cool. I'm definitely excited to see it. The other cool part that's like exciting, that will be exciting for me as someone who's just following the project and watching as it progresses, is just like, it's going to take a year before we even have the first like level 1 winner. And it's like, wow, that's a really long time, but that's actually, I think, a really cool aspect of the project that allows it to gain momentum, because good things take time. You know what I mean? It can't just overnight in a month you have your first level 1. I think that kind of devalues it almost even a little bit. I like this scarcity level and takes time to actually earn, that. And for artists who make it in, you're even thinking, wow, I have to produce a top tier piece of art every month this year.
Yeah, that's the elevate your art part.
Yeah.
So there's the kind of, again, physical aspect of elevating your art, getting it to the top. But also, actually originally we were going to collect all 11 pieces at once. That proved not only to be a barrier to entry, like people are not going to be like, okay, great, I'm going to make 11 pieces and then be voted out on the first one. That sucks. But also, we want people to be able to adapt their style and strategy as it goes. Like as an artist, we want you to be able to improve. And I know that over the course of a year you can improve a lot, especially if you're working towards like, okay, I want to win this. I gotta get my skills up. I gotta stay competitive. We want to make sure that we have the best art that we can have, both from just from my perspective, what I'm looking for is like, is this cool art? From a gamer's perspective, probably what they're looking for is like, is this going to look cool on my thing that I make? And from a collector's perspective, what they're looking for is, am I interested in this artist? Like, how rare is their work, or how good is their work, or whatever. So you have all these perspectives that are informing what people are doing. And then once they do that thing, then they're all going to look at each other and figure out their next move, So it's a dynamic thing that continues to inform itself as it progresses as well.
Yeah. I love that. And again, I keep loving comparing it to like a TV show, you know, like where artists get feedback every week or every day on how to improve, bring
Yeah.
something different to the next day or the next week of the competition. Will there be have you thought of ways for artists to get feedback of what people like and don't like as the competition is going on?
I haven't thought of ways specifically. I mean, we have a Twitter account and an Instagram, 1111 NFT. Um, but so we can look at the likes or the retweets or whatever. But I think ultimately, what it'll come down to is that's kind of built in with the voting and
Yeah.
the auction prices. So, if let's say that the voting thing is pretty straightforward, but even when it comes to auctioning these pieces, you know, you'll have at any given moment, you take a snapshot and you have, okay, here's the person who's in first place currently and the person who's in last place currently. Maybe somebody is looking at that and saying like, I don't really care if the person who's in first continues, that's fine. But this person who's in last, I think they should definitely go to the next level at least. So I'm going to place a bid on this,
Yeah.
to get them at least above the next one down or the next one up. So
Cool.
yeah, as far as like informing the artist or anybody of what people want, I think it really is just about looking at what's happening,
Yeah.
because whatever pieces, and there's only so much information you can get from like one round,
Yeah.
like here's a crayon drawing of a basketball, and like here's an oil painting portrait of Anna Paquin or whatever. So it's like a wide, diverse array of no pun intended array of pieces and styles and all kinds of like
Yeah.
just this is a screenshot of a digital sculpture and like all these different things that are in, like you were saying about taking a while to kind of build and progress, where we're starting out from. It's just right now, it's pretty much anybody who wants to apply. So
Yeah.
like if
Okay.
you're seeing and hearing this right now, do it, because there's a very good chance you will get into the array if you want to be part of this. There's a few guidelines like, no hardcore drugs, violence, sexuality, stuff like that. That's
Yeah.
the guidelines, the terms, whatever. And also AI art is a big one. So as a quote unquote traditional artist, I'm not against AI. I like I like it for its own sake. It's interesting. It's cool that you can put in, the word jack-o'-lantern and get 1,000 different results that are all really good and interesting. But that does not make you an artist if you do that. Sorry. It just doesn't. Like
Yeah.
you
So
typed
your own work. Okay.
exactly, like you typed the word jack-o'-lantern. That's great. That is not getting into 1111. You can use that as a base piece. And if you know anything about like art law and copyright law and stuff like that, it has to be a transformative work. So you can't just enter stuff into an AI, get the output and submit that. You can use it, but you have to significantly transform it. And you have to provide progress shots of your work so that we can see how you're changing this, and not just that you're, so that we know that you're not just using AI, and we know that you're not ripping off other artists, because that's very important to us as well.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. And then also we're not doing the PFP thing, like generative profile picture art. Again, cool for its own sake, like, the Bored Apes or CryptoPunks or whatever, where it's like essentially one form with different variations. Oh, it's wearing a different hat. This one has a nose ring. This one has blue lips or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
those are cool for their own thing. But what we're looking for is really more of like the kind of classic art gallery style, where each piece is really its own thing. And then you put your style on it as an artist,
Okay.
So
yeah, and so
yeah.
that brings me to my I think one of the last questions I had that I was curious about. It's like, what type of art can be submitted? Because obviously when it comes to digital art that can be created, there's lots of different types. So is it
Yeah.
kind of flat, all kind of flat, two-dimensional, or can people submit three-dimensional art? How will that work?
So for now, and this may be one of the things that we figure out down the line and maybe implement like an 1111 3D or something. But for now, it's all static 2D art.
Okay.
So you can do like a digital sculpture and, like I said, take a screenshot and then it's a 2D piece. But right now, essentially think like in the digital space, technically you could put like a rotating sculpture on a t-shirt, and then you would just see that on somebody's t-shirt, and that would be cool. But we'll figure that stuff out later. For now, we're just doing static 2D art.
Okay.
And it can be digital, or you can do it physically and take a picture. But if you're doing that for the pyramid, if you take a picture of physical art for the pyramid, you also have to destroy the original physical work that you did and submit a video of you destroying it.
Interesting.
Yeah, because we want it to only exist in the digital space.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anything else we cover? I know we plan to bring on ThankMeLater, where he can actually explain more about the revenue models of how things will work in Opex World and things like that. Anything else that you wanted to cover before we get to that point?
I think that's about it. I mean, I'm sure I'll think of something as soon as we sign off, but yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, this is an experience for artists by an artist, also for players of the game, also for art collectors, you know. And if you want to get your art in, like I said, there's a very good chance right now that you can get it in. Go to 1111nft.gallery/submit your work. And yeah, just I hope everybody tunes in and participates. Right now, it's pre-launch. The game is also pre-launch, so we'll see. They do have approval for the Steam store, so we don't know when that's going to happen. But so right now, if people are listening to this and going like, "Well, where is it? It doesn't even exist yet." Yes, we are literally on the ground floor. This is all happening soon, but get your art in now because the NFT process is starting on Friday of this week, November 11th. Okay. And then, so that'll start rolling, and then the game will get going, and then it'll all become this coalesced, fleshed out thing that we want it to be. So,
all right. So we actually have ThankMeLater with us, who DrKnowby has been working with. And let's also allow you to share your screen.
Great. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. How you doing today?
Man, I am doing good. It is a busy day in Web3, that's for sure. So yeah, like DrKnowby said, I mean, we've actually been talking for a while, long before like Genesis Week in August or July, I guess. And about August, Upex World started to kind of form its new gaming platform concept. And so we were working through like, well, what are the different experiences we want, things like that. And the 1111 NFT gallery that DrKnowby is running seemed like a great opportunity to prove out some of our, the way that we are taking layer 2 and kind of doing something a little different with NFTs in the space, looking to add passive income and revenue. So don't really, you know, if you don't know, I'll leave it here so that way you can read it, pause it if you want. So the kind of the problem statement that we saw at Upex World is like the NFT market has been hit by both the, you know, the just terrible economy in general, but then specifically the crypto market. People are doing mass, you know, creation of NFTs and rug pull. It's been a really bad space, and especially for artists, I think that they've gotten a bad taste in their mouth in regards to NFTs. And so I'm hoping with the collaboration between DrKnowby, myself, Opex World, and 1111 NFT Gallery, that we can start to change some of that. Before we go, you know, I'm going to say between layer 1 and 2 a lot, And I want to make sure that we're on the same kind of wavelength on that. When we look, this is just how I view Web3 and the layers, just so you know. Layer 0 being the blockchain. This is the core technology that everything's built on. Layer 1, NFTs, the metaverse, blockchain games like Upland, which you interact directly with the assets, or you mint the assets directly from them. That's layer 1. Layer 2 is above that. We are actually blockchain agnostic. We are not tied to any blockchain or any NFT project in its entirety. So we partner with Upland to have some different experiences there, and that's on EOS. And then the 1111 NFT gallery is actually based in Wax, on the Wax chain. So cross chain. And the reason this is so important is when we look at the market of Web3, I think that it's done really well with the investors and the technicals and even some of the creators. I think that they are getting really involved in the Web3 space. Where we're seeing that kind of hesitation, like the average gamer, there's a little, right? Like you'll get people like me that are maybe a little tech savvy and a gamer, but then your mass market users, your people that are on, Facebook, your moms, your aunts kind of thing, they're really very far disconnected from Web3.
Yeah.
So we want to bring Web3 kind of out. And so again, using the iceberg analogy, layer 2 to me is that tip of the iceberg that gets people comfortable. It doesn't feel super techy. It doesn't feel very different than what they're used to. And yeah, so I'm not going to go through the description of each of these. But actually, I guess this is, hold on, actually, there is an important piece here. So if we look at the different layers and what they are designed to do, so when we look at like blockchain and specifically cryptocurrency, like the decentralization of currency was kind of that foundational element where Bitcoin and Ethereum and those kind of concepts started, the shared ledgers and stuff like that. Then we started to see the creation of unique assets and environments. And to me, like this is where everyone, decentralization of your assets and true ownership of your assets, those things really have been prolific in the space. I think the missing piece that will help bridge mass market and add value back to the NFT space, which I think is really hurting from it, is the decentralization of the actual revenue streams. So when we look at the current models, especially in the gaming industry, it is very much guided like a funnel. You have lots of players that all do microtransactions that get fed to a single conglomerate. It's very profitable for them. The gaming industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It is a growth sector, especially with lockdown, things like that. There's more gamers now than ever, but the way the revenue works in the current system is still very focused on a small amount of kind of ownership. What we're doing is, as Opex World is a gaming platform that we are building these experiences on, and our goal is to decentralize the revenue streams from a gaming company almost entirely. Obviously, there still needs to be revenue that we're generating to maintain the platform and to grow the company. However, every in-app purchase will be backed by at least one NFT, if not more. And this is a critical architecture decision so that when a player makes an in-app purchase in Opex World, they can track where that revenue is going. And we can take a look at an example that we kind of put together based on some preliminary numbers from 1111 NFT gallery. So they, as you heard about like the pyramid pieces, which are one-of-one NFTs, if you own one of those one-of-one NFTs, that will be made available for players to actually use to create content in Upex World. So for instance, let's say you have a favorite piece of art, you could put it on a t-shirt, and it's very cost effective. So that's the other thing, is when you look at NFTs and the barrier there, a one-of-one NFT can be hundreds or thousands of dollars. The average gamer is not interested in paying that, even if you go, but it's an investment and you'll get your money back. They just don't have those funds or the interest in doing that. They are happy to pay $1 or 50 cents for an in-game t-shirt that they can use and play with, and they're okay that they'll never be able to sell it or transfer it. This is a core concept that I think is missing from the current gaming space of Web3, is recognizing that the average gamer isn't so interested in true ownership or generating revenue. They are interested in being able to get cool stuff for a reasonable price. So here's the model. If you were the owner of that piece of art and somebody purchases a t-shirt and prints that image on that t-shirt, you would receive 89% of that actual commission. So in this case, we're just using credits generically. This could be US dollars. This could be Upex. We are still in talks with Upland. We are very interested in a collaboration where, you know, it makes sense if we're Opex World that our primary premium currency would be Upex. So let's pretend it's Upex. You pay 125 Upex for this t-shirt. It's unlocked on your account. You're a happy Xlander. Cool. Behind the scenes, 89 Upex is being allocated to the actual original NFT. So when that player logs in and it checks their Wax wallet, if they have that wallet in there, they will see the dividends of 89 Upex and they'll be able to collect it. Think about like when you log into Upland and you collect your interest for a property. It would be very similar to that, where you'll be able to collect that revenue from all the digital assets that you have that are linked to in-app purchases. There are some specific nuances here for 1111 NFT Gallery that DrKnowby was very passionate about, and I think it's a really cool thing. So specifically, the artist proof. So the way that royalties and things work in the current space is really nice, that the artist gets ongoing royalties every time the original asset sells. Now, in this model, 1111 is actually printing all of the NFTs. Now, and I won't speak for DrKnowby. I'm sure he could address that. He is working to track that and be able to compensate the artist for secondary sales. That is aside. What we're doing inside of Opex World is that DrKnowby is actually issuing an artist proof for all of the artist NFTs that will then be given to those artists. This is really nice because that means they're getting a 6% commission forever on every piece of art that they have an artist proof for. This means that you now have a digital asset that represents passive revenue that you can either hold and continue to collect the revenue, or after 6 months, maybe you see the average it's earning, you need a larger injection of funds. You could sell that on the secondary market and leverage the actual passive income information that's available to say, this is how much this item earns, which will then add directly to its value. So it's a much different approach. You also see the 1111 vendor NFT. So like I said, everything is backed by an NFT. Opex World will be issuing 1111 an NFT that will then be linked to give them 5%. And as the experience owner, DrKnowby has set all of these numbers. It could have been that 5% was to the owner and 95% was to 1111. That isn't how he's opted to do it. He's opted to be very generous towards the people that are buying the art from the artist, and as well as incorporating the artist in ongoing revenue opportunities, which I think is really just the exact kind of partnerships we're looking for the platform, is people who are willing to give a lot back to the community.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting to see how 1111 and Upex World will kind of be working together to make all of this possible. Will 1111 also be kind of its own standalone like brand and managing everything, or is it all accessed kind of through the Upex World environment?
Well, so as far as access goes, the actual direct access to these NFTs will be on Atomic Hub.
Okay.
We think we're still kind of working out the details, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be on Atomic Hub, and that's where you will actually go to purchase the NFTs. So in that sense, it's completely removed from Upex World. Cool. But the experience itself, there will be a physical, not physical, but in the digital space, a physical building where you can go in and it looks like a gallery and you can walk around and look at all the pieces of art. And so as an experience, it only exists within Upex World.
Cool. That's exciting.
Yeah. And there's going to be a lot more to it. I don't know if you've talked about the guild at all. I won't spoil anything there, but there are also going to be some unique additional experiences that are kind of custom created in Upex World as a layer 2. So that is exactly the kind of collaboration. 1111 NFT.gallery is its own standalone brand with its own operator of DrKnowby, its own profit models and overall design that is then being housed on Upex World as a way to add more utility and interest to these pieces. So yeah, it's I'm really excited about the collaboration for sure. Being really the first art project on the platform, I think the artists that are in this first round have a massive advantage. These are like, I tell people that when I talk to, it's like, these are the crypto punks of this platform. These are going to be the original pieces. And I know it's like an obscure thing now, but when it is a multi-billion-dollar gaming platform, and these were the first ones that sold hardly any, but are incredibly valued to collectors, like, to me, that is exciting to be able to be a part of and to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this discussion with both of you, and to see how 1111 and Upex World will kind of collaborate together. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience about the project before we go?
No, submit your art. If you haven't already, do it. If you're not in the first round, get in the second round. Do it. Do it. Like, that's, I don't have anything else to say besides do it. It's 2 pieces of art to be a part of history. Like, I'm doing it. I'm working on my piece right now. It's I'm gonna do like a stained glass window piece based off of actually Upland, honestly. An homage to Upland and stained glass, which I really enjoy. So I'm working on my pieces now. So,
well, yeah, this was really cool. I was really excited to be able to learn more about DrKnowby, about your background, and then thank ThankMeLater for hopping on and showing us more about how it will interact with Upex World. I've really enjoyed this podcast, and as always, we hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.